Hello everyone. So this will be a continuation of the moving up the caged chords videos. Today we'll be looking at moving up A. So in the original open chords video, we learned basically A major, A minor, A major 7, A dominant 7, and A minor 7. So we're basically just going to take all of those shapes, move them up, and it's basically just going to be more bar chords kind of thing. So once again, we're not going to talk too much about technique with this. If you're struggling with that, that will be in a separate video. We'll talk about that. So again, imagine you take this. One thing I neglected to mention is another common way a lot of people like to play this A major shape is just with one finger. You kind of flatten down on the D, G, and B strings. And a lot of the time what happens is sometimes, you can get this little bit of an arch in your finger there to keep that bottom string still open, but a lot of the time it doesn't happen, it just gets muted. That's kind of almost a feature of playing it that way. So just keep that in mind. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and in fact, a lot of the times you'll listen to a record where the guitarist will be playing this kind of voicing, and a lot of the time that string will be muted. That's totally fine. That's very normal, as long as everything else is ringing out. So in general, we're going to use this. We're going to grab it with our ring finger and move this up. Now, yes, some people like to actually still do this. And again, doing it like this, obviously the disadvantage is now you're using all four fingers, and you can't kind of throw your pinky around, which is nice. But you have access to that bottom note a lot easier most of the time. Okay? So in general, just do whichever you prefer. If you prefer this way, that's totally fine. Most of the time, I prefer this way. So again, you can move that up wherever you want. The root note is going to be on the A string. So just try not to, fret it all the way up to the top. Again, it's not, we won't dive into the technique too much, but I recommend kind of using the tip of your finger just to not fret it, but just touching underneath that top E string, and then that kind of keeps it muted, and you don't have to worry about that whatsoever. Okay. Let's get into the other shapes. So this would be the A major shape. You can move it around. Again, it's not A major when you move it to a different spot. Here it's A major in the open position. That's the original kind of chord. If you move it up a fret, it becomes A sharp major or B flat major. One more becomes B major, one more becomes C major. Whole stuff from there becomes D major, so on. Okay? So, but it's always going to be a major chord, just like before. You're going to notice this pattern. Let's look at the minor shape. So again, we're going to use it with those three fingers, add the bar when we move it up. Just exactly like I explained before, think about you have like a capo instead of your first finger. Okay? And again, wherever you move this, it's always going to be a minor chord. And it's borrowing from this A minor shape. Very easy is the minor 7. We just have to take off the pinky. Super easy. Okay. The major 7, again, originally A major 7 looked like that. We swap our fingers, and then when we move it up, this one's a really nice one. And again, wherever we move this, it's always going to be a major 7 chord. Now with this one, you have the option, because kind of how this chord shape is, you don't actually have to bar it, and you can kind of have your fingers like this, especially when you're finger picking. If you just stay within those middle 4 strings and not include that bottom, or obviously not the top. Right? Obviously, again, you could use a pick, and you can kind of have that bottom muted if you like, or like I said, you can totally bar it all the way down. That's fine too, depending on what you're after. The dominant 7, you're just going to take off the middle finger right there. And this one, you do have to kind of have that bar finger flatten down everything. And again, wherever you move this, it's always going to be a dominant 7 chord. but it might be a C dominant 7, a D dominant 7, a D sharp dominant 7, or a G dominant 7, whatever, wherever you put it. But again, shape equals chord type. Where you put it equals the letter or the root note. Hope that helps.